Beautiful. Thank you, you guys. So, a number of years ago, I engaged in a project to raise a little money for my son who is getting involved seriously in a competitive sport. We needed to raise some money because it was getting expensive really quickly. So we bought an investment property that we renovated with the intention of turning around and selling it. We spent months renovating and renovating. Finally, the day came when we learned that a realtor would be touring prospective buyers through the place. We got the call, it was early one Saturday morning, that the tour was wonderful until they stepped into onto the basement floor of the place that just had brand new plush carpet throughout, and they sunk their feet into about 1.5 inches of water. And we were shocked. I couldn't figure out what the heck. But the date was, it was June 2013, and Calgary had just experienced what they called the flood of the century. The water table, after so much rain came down, had been rising, and it exposed a crack in the foundation of the home that we had purchased. I'm not even sure that the owners who owned prior to us knew about that crack. But see, that's the funny thing, is unless you have a crazy storm that raises the water levels to some of the highest points, sometimes cracks in foundations never really truly get noticed. It's kind of a lot like what's going on right now in our world. This pandemic is what we would call one of the storms of the century, if not longer. It's raised the emotional water table. It's applying pressure on areas of our lives that we never knew, that we've never felt before. And often what it does is it begins to expose cracks. Some people will notice it in their relationships. Some people will notice it just in their own personal life, this sense of disillusionment, frustration, panic, anxiety. It's weird. You sometimes don't even know where it's coming from. You're just feeling it. It can leave you out of sorts. You know, the spiritual journey really is all about diving down and pulling off the drywall of our lives in the basements and looking at the foundation work that we've built our lives on. Did you know that? Some people don't realize that. Some people come into spirituality looking for some kind of life hack that will make their life just so much happier. When in reality, true spirituality says, no, we're not looking for a Band-Aid here. We're looking for the way that you have aligned your core beliefs and values, the way that you have ordered your relationships, the way that you are living out your internal compass of what's right and wrong. Some people haven't thought deeply about that. In fact, some get involved in the spiritual journey going, I'm just looking for some guidance or whatever. Here's the deal. The real magic of spirituality happens when you start pulling off the drywall. And you start looking at what's going on, and you go, okay, here's the problem over here. And you begin to address it at a foundational level. And it's amazing how, when the deep work is done, when you begin to line up who you are, what is right and wrong for me, and you start living out those things. What kind of relationships do I want to be a part of? What don't I? Who am I? What is my calling? What is the meaning of all of this? These are deep, deep questions that many never want to ask because the answers to them are difficult to arrive at. But we're going to take 8 weeks, beginning in 2 Sundays, in a series called Foundational, to explore some of these deep questions, to do some foundation work. And I'm telling you, if you have not spent much time thinking deeply about some of the stuff for your own life, this is going to be a perfect opportunity for you. Now, chances are you know someone too who could really use just an opportunity to really look deeply at who they are and why they're here, and invite them and get them involved. Share a link, do whatever you got to do. But there will be people that you will invite into this journey for 8 weeks that will thank you deeply. Because when you come out of that, you reorder the foundational work. It's amazing how different life can feel. So I invite you to join us. For those reasons, this kind of work that we get to do in the gym on a Sunday morning, get people sweating, thinking hard, or not thinking, being present, whatever it is, these kinds of things that are so missing in our world. Many of you give to Friends Church for this reason, because you believe that the world needs a Friends Church. And I just want to take another moment this morning before I turn it over to Trevor to thank all of you, whether you're here in person this morning or that you're listening, who are supporting this thing, this community called Friends Church, and allowing what we do to go on week after week, challenging people to do important work that leads to a better world. I want to thank you. You have been so generous and so faithful in your support of us, and I got to tell you, though I don't know of any church that right now isn't in this white knuckle zone and area, just because economically we're in a very unprecedented time. I'm grateful for those who have been able to shoulder with us and keep this thing pointed true north. Very grateful. So thank you for that. Thank you for being a part of this ongoing journey as a community. Next week, I want to talk about community, the connection that we feel with those in our lives. But before we get there, I'm excited to turn over the mic to Trevor Dreher. I read through his message this week, and I'm excited. This is a message that needs to be told again and again. Why don't you welcome Trevor to the stage. Trevor Dreher.
Thanks, Jeff. As we're starting this morning, you've been hearing a lot of just us talking about just taking some breaths, and Vince talked about last week. So it is, as Alessandra was saying, with kids going back to school, there's some stress. So could we just take like 2 just deep belly breaths? Just go right into your belly. And just one more, just. Good morning. Really good morning, everyone. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone here, I mean everyone there. It's interesting, we look at some of the things that have happened in our world with COVID, and it shrunk our world again. Our community's actually bigger. It feels funny if you look around this morning, you're like, it's bigger? It is. It is. We have more people watching. We have more people who are really feeling a part of Friends Church, and we're all part of that. So good morning to everyone here and there. So my wife and I, 2 weeks ago, were driving in the car, and it's one of those beautiful days. The sunshine's going in, and we're just chit-chatting. Have you ever had that moment where you're just like, oh, it just feels good. We're talking about lots of stuff. It's blissful. The sun's coming through. And then I made some random comment. And it changed just like that. I wasn't even sure. I was like, how do we get this back? It was so much fun just a moment ago. I want to pull those words. Oh. But it wasn't. I couldn't. And in retrospect, it was a pretty stupid comment. And the connection, it was gone. Where have you wrecked connection recently? Where have you wrecked connection just recently? What I want us thinking about is just that moment where we know we could have done better, but we missed that opportunity. Could I have done something to bring that moment back, that stupid comment? Well, yeah, I think there is. I think there's some skills that I would like to have, that I think we would all appreciate having, actually, that would make our relationships better. Ooh, those are good skills, aren't they? We're going to call them a fruit basket this morning. A fruit basket of skills, you say? Oh, yes, we're all excited. We're eating our fruits. I think the reason I'm using fruits, it's actually a biblical comment. We call them the fruits. And they talk about, it's interesting, there's some big ones. There's love, there's joy, there's peace and patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. If you think of it in that fruit basket, wouldn't it be great if we just had the right one to pick out at the right time? What would that be like in that moment? What if we could be kind to people we don't agree with? What if we could be patient to hear someone out who we don't really, well, that's hard. Would I be better in my world? Would we be better in our world? Take me back to that car for a moment, enjoying that blissful ride. If I had had one of those fruits, could I have been more patient? Would I have even asked the silly question or made the statement? I don't think I would have. And maybe thinking of that fruit basket, I might have stayed in that moment of joy and just said, this is good. What would bringing love look like in conversations? What if we started with questions for a change instead of my answers or our answers? What would gentleness look like? Can I ask, do I have multimedia for my little gifts? Yes or no? My love? No, I don't. Okay, then you're going to have to just listen to me again. So I want you to go back to that lost connection, that moment that you had. I'm back in the car. I don't know where you are, that moment where you lost connection recently. I want you to think of this basket of fruit with these different options and say, okay, if I could go into the basket and if I could have restored connection, would I have needed love? What about joy or peace or patience or goodness or kindness or faithfulness? What about gentleness, self-control? If I could go back in that car and replay my comment, if I had gentleness with it, it would have landed differently. It would have landed differently. What's your fruit? What would have changed that moment of connection? What happens when your kid comes up and says, oh, I want to do something right now? You're like, "Rrr." What if you just brought joy that they actually want to play with you? Wouldn't that be fun? Oh, when you're in the return lineup at IKEA and people are losing their stuff, or any store really recently, but I was at the return IKEA lineup and they were losing it. Peace. Where do those moments of kindness, if you brought kindness forward, if you could pick a fruit, redo that moment, what would the moment look like? Which of those skills would have totally changed or worked to rebuild that connection? See, having that fruit basket, it's a completely different approach. It's an entirely different feel. And wouldn't it be great if we had those skills? We call them spiritual skills because it's in the Bible, I guess, but they look a lot like relationship skills to me. Rather than causing little tears in connection, imagine for a sec that we could repair and we could even rebuild. Now, this morning I've shared the fruits with you. You've actually thought about them. So now you can all just trawl about and make the world a better place, right? Spreading love, joy, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, while being self-controlled. None of you are trampling out yet. See, we want to be spiritually healthy right now. I want to be spiritually healthy right now. Because we don't know when actually life is going to throw us a curveball. Did anyone have COVID in their 2020 plans? It wasn't in mine. Any? No. And what we know is trying to get healthy when we're in the middle of a crisis, it's possible. It's just a bit tougher. See, we want those we care about to be able to say something to us, and when we don't agree, we want to be patient. And we really understand where we're coming from. But other times, with gentleness and kindness, but how do we get to that place? Like, if it's just knowing about it, how do we get to that place? I've got a story for you. Two sisters growing up together on a farm. Both are hardworking. Both have okay relationships with their parents. Dad's pretty easygoing. Mom's a bit tougher. And, politely, it's a bit strained for both daughters with Mom, because she's driven. See, this is the third generation of farming. It's Mom's family's farm. And she wants a fourth generation. And she wants a fifth generation farm. So she's tough on her girls. She wants them to develop a skill. She wants them to run it on their own at some point. And you know what? A chance comes up to sell some of the farmland. And the two sisters, they go in very different directions. The older sister's like, whew, I can get out of Mom's harsh thumb. Okay, pay me my share that I would have inherited. I'm going to go live my life. And her mom, whose land it is, says yes. And away that older daughter goes. The younger one says, I'll stay. I'm going to support this. So the older daughter, you can imagine, a lot of money in your bank account, young, first-class tickets, Michelin star dining. Michelin star dining, I always think of tires, but apparently it's actually a really good thing. Finest clothes, hotel, it's amazing. 4 years, surrounded by people. But back on the farm, Mom's now going through this period of time, and she's not hearing from her daughter for weeks, then months, then years. The first few months, maybe there was a postcard and a call, but then they stopped. And Mom took it hard. She knew she'd been tough on both of her girls, because her mom had been tough on her too. She wanted her girls to have the strength to run a farm, to handle sexism, to make sure they felt strong enough to have a voice. So she pushed. Her motto, hard as nails. It's a phrase both girls would have instantly recognized. And it's interesting, her younger daughter, she thrived. This girl was a rule follower, and it just seemed to fit her. But her oldest girl, holy smokes, cats, dogs, oil, water, whatever analogy you want to use there, they did not fit. Talk about hiring practices. Oh, we could do better. Why couldn't they do more organic farming? Why couldn't they run an entirely different operation? And her mom just got frustrated, just frustrated. And so when that chunk of land came up and her oldest daughter wanted out, she thought, yep, I'll let her go see the world, sow her wild oats, so to speak, and in a few months, I'm sure she'll come back and realize how much she missed it. But after a few months and then a few years of barely hearing from her, wow, maybe Mama got this wrong. No cards, no anything. And then Mom found herself looking through photo albums. She'd been avoiding it for a while because she knew she'd be seeing happier times. And through tears, Mom started to notice a theme. Her oldest daughter hardly ever had a smile on her face. From almost her toddler pictures all the way through to her high school and university, hardly a smile. And then Mom started to think back. The one picture of her as a toddler with this beautiful yellow dress. And from her daughter's perspective, her mom had just yelled at her a moment before, "Don't get it muddy." And that was the moment that was captured. Her high school, as she's coming down for her prom, her mom, just as she came down the stairs, "Is that your hair?" Just before the picture was taken. And she started flipping back through more pictures, and she saw it for a moment through her daughter's eyes, and she saw this sad girl, and she couldn't believe it. She wasn't feeling good. She never told her daughter just to have fun, just to enjoy herself. She never told her how pretty or smart she was. And those memories through her daughter's eyes, they did not make Mom feel good. So 2 years after her oldest daughter left the farm, Mom starts counseling. She starts reading. Mom decided she didn't want to reinvent herself exactly, but she needed to refine herself. Tough as nails. That wasn't a motto she wanted to continue with. She wanted to be kinder to people. She wanted to be kinder to the environment. She wanted to be better. Counseling was tough, like really tough. The reading, it was heartbreaking because Mom saw where she'd wrecked connection with her daughter again, and then again, and then again. And those tears, Mom could see that she hadn't repaired any of them. She joined a book club. She started having conversations with others. It was tough work. And you know what? The farm still had to run. She had her youngest daughter there. But you know what? People started noticing changes in Mom. Not overnight, but they noticed. You know, Mom used to rant and rave if there was an error. Oh, how could we make that mistake? All of a sudden, everyone noticed she was a bit more forgiving. She was ready to listen, to hear the other side and how we could fix it. And the hired help, they noticed. She was asking about their families for the first time. They're like, who is this person again? You've never asked about my family. And she was paying attention. When she showed up at one of their kids' soccer games, they almost fell off the bleachers. And her youngest daughter, the one who was still there running the farm with her, her opinion mattered, her thoughts. And her mom had started to talk about issues not related to farming. Mom continuing to do the hard work. And then every day, there's a moment where she misses her oldest girl, sometimes terribly. And she hopes that her daughter will reach out to her. But she continues to work to be better. Imagine that, almost 4 years with no contact. And those 4 years have passed, and we find the oldest daughter now struggling to make ends meet. Her money ran out. It happens, even with lots of money. She grew up on a farm. She knows how to work hard, and she works jobs. But she thought she had great friends until the money ran out. And then she didn't know who to trust. And there always now seems to be more month than money. And she's used to living a good life, and it's hard to do that at a minimum wage. And one day, the oldest daughter, quite a while after the money's ran out, just thinks, you know, the hired help on my farm, they live better than this. Just looks at what's in her fridge, they eat better than this, and they're treated better than this. And so, the oldest daughter, okay, I'm going to swallow my pride. I'm going to go beg for a job. I don't deserve to be there as a daughter. I'm going to go beg as a worker. And so she makes her way back, hitchhiking. Some weeks later, she finds herself 1 mile away from that farm. That same moment, Mom's out surveying the land, walking with the help. She sees a lonely figure walk up the road. And she recognizes the walk. It's a broken person. It's someone who the world has beat up a little bit. They get a lot of that at this time of year, she thinks. They probably have a place for him. And she turns back to and then Mom looks again. Imagine what that's like. 4 years. 4 years she hasn't seen that girl. And she recognizes it's her oldest daughter, the one who's been lost, the one she wants forgiveness from, the one she wants to tell how much she loves and how proud she is of her. And Mom drops everything to the shock of the help, and she just starts running and yelling her daughter's name. Now, her oldest daughter sees this figure coming towards her. She recognizes the shouting, and she cringes because she figures her mom's just going to kick her right off the land. She won't even get a chance to beg for a job. She knows her mom, and when her mom gets angry, there's just no reasoning with her. And from her shouting, her mom sounds angry. But as her mom comes closer, the daughter realizes there is tears streaming down her face. And Mom runs right into her, almost knocking her over, and just hugs her so hard, just sobbing and holding her tight. Daughter doesn't know what quite to do, so she kind of hugs her back. Tough as nails. Who's this woman? It looks like my mom. It doesn't really sound like my mom. What's going on here? The youngest daughter's been away all day. She doesn't know what's going on. She's getting the planting plan ready for the next season, working hard. You know, she misses her older sister. If you've had maybe a sibling, sometimes you admire certain things about them. She admired a lot of things about her older sister, but Hey, she stayed, her sister went, it's been 4 years. And all of a sudden she gets a strange text. Come home, party tonight. She's looking at her phone and thinks it's a Wednesday. All the help, all of a sudden, every one of their phone bings. She's like, oh, okay. We got a lot of work to do here still. And so she keeps on working. Eventually she sends the help back. She said, oh, you head out, I'll make it to the party. She wants to finish her work because she's always been taught that's what she's supposed to do. So it's after 8 when she drives into the farmyard, into a party that looks like something between New Year's and a birthday party. The music fills the air. People are everywhere. The barn is full of tables, chairs, food. Someone passes her a beer and she's thinking, we're drinking? And it's not just the help. She sees neighbors, she sees cousins. She sees her aunt and uncle who are like 2 hours away. She's like, what is going on? Finally, it's a cousin who said, well, didn't you hear? She said, hear what? Your sister's back. And your mom threw a party to welcome her home. Younger sister's pretty shocked. I mean, her mom kind of remembers her birthday. She's never thrown her a party. And she's been working her butt off for 4 years, and this is the kind of party that her sister gets. So she finishes her beer and heads down the road to her place. She's like, I'm not staying here. Word gets to Mom. She's been looking for her youngest daughter all night. She's excited to have her 2 girls together with her again. And she hears the youngest daughter was just here for a minute and then gone. And Mom doesn't skip a beat. She tells everyone, have fun. I'm going to head and check on my girl. Goes down to the road, knocks on the door. What do you want? I can imagine as the youngest daughter, I'd be pretty annoyed too. Mom just asks kindly as she entered, why aren't you at the party? Your older sister's back. Did you get a chance to see her? Mom's kindness and calm. But it doesn't stop the youngest daughter. She's angry and she's been revved up. She says, Mom, what the hell? Like, you're throwing her a party. She's been gone for 4 years. She took her money and ran. I haven't had anything like that. What gives? And Mom takes a breath because she learned to do that in counseling. And she looks her youngest daughter in the eye and she said, my sweet girl, everything I have is yours. You're precious to me. Your sister was lost. Now she's returned to us. Come back and enjoy the party we, you and me, are throwing for her to welcome her home. I took that story from the Bible. It's a little bit different in the Bible. The prodigal daughter. You might recognize as the prodigal son, the one who's lost and comes back. It's one of the many great stories Jesus kind of subtly shared. It's a powerful one. Can I ask you for a moment, what character do you identify with the most? Are you the youngest daughter? Were you the rule follower? That's my favorite. I'm the oldest kid, so I like to follow rules, and they made sense to me, and it was good. Are you maybe in this case, are you the younger daughter who stayed? Are you the older daughter who left? And maybe not your family, but maybe a group of friends where you just said, I'm done. Maybe at times in our life, we've all been both those characters. You know, the character I never identified with, though, was the parent, the mom in this story. You know whose role I always saw that as? I said, oh, good, that's God. I grew up seeing that as God. And God being God, he would always take me back. And you know what? It's an incredibly comforting thought. And it's one way to see the story. One way. But then Vince, about 2 years ago, he challenged me and he said, what if we're meant to be the parent in that story? What if we're meant to be the parent in that story? That's an incredibly hard role. How would we feel as parents if we've given our best, lost lots of our own resources, and our child takes them and just disappears from our lives? Like, what would we feel like as a parent? Not a word for almost 4 years. What would we need to do in that time to not only take them back, but to welcome them back after they left? Shouldn't we be angry? Aren't we allowed to be angry? Feels like we should be angry. Wouldn't it be right to chastise them for blowing all the money? Shouldn't we be disappointed that they never reached out to us? Like, shouldn't we be? Seems normal to me. What would it take for us to welcome them back with love and kindness? Like, really welcome them. That would take a lot of growth. The work that I'd have to do, that we'd have to do as a parent to be kinder, to welcome them. I got to tell you, that idea blew me away. Is there a relationship in your life that's gone kind of sideways? A friend you just don't talk to anymore? Maybe a parent, a former colleague, maybe something in your marriage. Would you be willing to do the hard work, even if there might never be a chance to fix that relationship? See, when you replace God in the story, whatever that means to you, and you make it to a person, and then you ask, could I be that person? That just challenges the heck out of me. Like, where am I holding a grudge? Where do I want to be better with the people I love? What's my role in the trouble in my relationships? And they're all doozies. I find it much easier to yell at others. I think that's good therapy. But I don't like to acknowledge my part in the problem. If the mom in this story, if she doesn't spend all that time in counseling, if she doesn't do that reading, if she doesn't reach out to people, what does that walk down the farm road look like for her oldest daughter? What does it look like? Tough as nails, there's no room for forgiveness. And where's that room for kindness? And would she have known how to treat her younger daughter and bring her in? What has to change in our own lives to get to that level? Counseling every week, reading on relationships. It's ninja level stuff, isn't it? Wouldn't it be great if we could just skip the hard work? Like, wouldn't that be great? When I saw this study in 2018, it blew me away. 40% of Canadians do almost no daily exercise. We all walked up the steps today, so, sorry for those people who aren't here, go out and walk up some steps so you can feel better. And when you think about that, people are not doing daily exercise. It's shocking at first. It's like, what? And if we were dealing with robots, if we were robots, I told you I could have stopped at the fruits of the Spirit because we would have just saw them, made sense, and implement. Good news, we're humans. Bad news, we're humans. This quote from Simon Sinek really summarizes when we talk about exercise, but I think it applies to so many other things in our world. He said if we, good, we have that quote, thank you. If we have to understand the interplay between intensity and consistency, you can't go to the gym for 9 hours and get in shape. It doesn't work. But if you work out every day for 20 minutes, you will absolutely get into shape. Now, when he said this, I was listening to Simon on a podcast, and when he said this next line, he was really sad. He said, but I don't know when it will happen. So we know that. We know we can't go to the gym one time in our lives, work out for 10 hours, 9 hours. I'm done. I'm in shape for life. But wouldn't it be great if the world was like that? It's not. It's not. You know, as I was preparing for this message and I was talking to Vince and Jeff about it, I was glad to hear I wasn't the only one, at least in that group, who was stumbling over these ideas of implementing better relationship skills. I don't think it's just me. I don't think it's just us. Spiritual practices that we know we should be doing, but they just don't seem to be easy. And sometimes we have to be gently pushed, sometimes maybe shoved to get them going. See, when I look at those fruits of the Spirit and I think of that basket, I'm like, oh, those are great ideas. I really would like to have those in my life. I'd love to help others. It would all be wonderful. But then I know something else. It doesn't just happen. I love this quote. It doesn't mean that we're adults just because we're a certain age. We're going to stumble. We're going to... Don't kick yourself for being human. We have to do it, and it takes work, and we know it takes work. I watched a close family member of mine really struggle with her weight for years, like really struggle. And I know she's been trying to lose weight and get healthier. And it struck me, we were at a gathering a year ago, and I was watching her sort of interact with people, and it was hard because she wasn't happy. It was noticeable she wasn't comfortable with who she was. Her weight was affecting her and everyone around her, from her kids to her grandkids. And you know, it was really hard to see, because I knew she'd been on and off all of these different health plans. But you know, when we start something and then we get off it right away, it's like, I'll just be kinder today. If I'm just kinder today, I'm good. And it'd be like, oh, I'll be gentler today, just today. We know we have to be more consistent. Last week, she hosted a big barbecue at her house, and she's been hammering a nutrition plan, and she's been very deliberate about her exercise. She's been seeing a trainer every week, and I was blown away by the physical differences. She's not real thin. She's not like bodybuilder buff. She's just healthy. But the physical differences, who she was as a person, I heard her laugh for the first time in years. I saw how comfortable she was with everybody and giving time. And I just thought, oh, wow, you're here. You've done the work. And it's much more than just about a number on the scale. It's about who you are now because you've done it. But it didn't just happen. She had to do the work. And she'd had to be super diligent, and she had to keep it up. And a year later, let me go back to the question I asked at the beginning. Where have you wrecked connection recently? I'd like to fix that moment in the car. So how do we do that? I'm going to say we come here. Whether we're here virtually or here to the spiritual gym, because that's what I think of as church. Like a church is a place to be nudged, shoved into a better version. Because what does spiritual growth look like in areas of relationships? What's the perfect workout for all of us? I have some thoughts, but they'd be wrong. So let me tell you about the spiritual gym here. We don't care if you're competing at the highest level or if you're a reforming couch potato. Everyone's welcome. No one size fits all. That's a good thing. You might then ask, why come to the gym? And I'll tell you to be challenged. Your issues, your pace. It's a progression. Parents, siblings, work, community, we're human. We have lots of things in common and lots of unique challenges. And we want that basket of fruit, that love, that joy, that patience, that peace. And we want to bring that into our lives. Because if we can be kind and gentle to people we don't agree with, patient enough to hear, we're better. And just think of what Simon Sinek said. It can't happen all at once. We don't know when we're going to get into shape exactly, but if we keep going, we will. Keep dialing. Keep coming in. I can't tell you when, but I can tell you you'll get into better shape. What does better shape look like? To be the best you, to be the best us that we can be in the world, to be able to listen to our partners, to be able to bring joy into other people's lives. How do we become more like that mom? We do the work. We challenge ourselves. It's work. It's work. And it's worth it. 1 year from today, I'd like to be in a little bit better spiritual shape. Just a bit better. I'd like a little bit more kinder, a little bit more patience, a little more understanding. My vision for all of us is that same thing. I'd like us to just be in a little bit better shape. And think about what that would do to our lives and to the world. I want to just remind you, everyone's welcome no matter where you are today. No matter where you are. We can all get in a little bit better shape. See you next week for another workout. Have a great Sunday, guys.